that is one more reason why Brother Michael's prelude was so significant. So when we're talking about health, I know, yes, we are concerned about weight management. We are concerned about the little ailments that we feel. We are concerned about taking care of our hearts or nervous system or brains or lymphatic system, all of that stuff. And I want to give you as much information as we can because we know that we need that information. But it's interesting that we talk about freedom retreat. And it's my hope, my brothers and sisters, that one day we will create the curriculum or a curriculum for our race. Because, coming from our Kemetic past, a lot has been taken away from us. Now, listen to this. Let me ask you this, my brothers and sisters, because I know we have many elders amongst us, including myself. I've observed that, been listening to the news, and I've been doing that for the past few weeks frequently because turn my radio on to either WINS or CBS or one of those stations to listen to the news. And one of the things I notice that's popping up quite frequently is people who are lost, who have separated themselves from their families because they're suffering from some kind of dementia, Alzheimer's or something like that. And I have to ask you tonight, my brothers and sisters, especially those amongst us who have a lot of experience. Can you recall many years ago, probably 50 years ago, 40 years ago, when so many elders were suffering from this condition known as Alzheimer's? And in thinking about Alzheimer's, I want us to understand what Alzheimer's does to an individual. For people who live in families who has members who are suffering from this condition, you must understand how devastating this condition is. I remember talking to one of my friends one day, and he said to me, his mother suffered from Alzheimer's, so I'd occasionally ask him, how's your mommy doing? Because what would happen is that he lives here in the United States, his mother lives in Jamaica, so his siblings and himself, they would take turns to go home and spend time with her, just to make sure that she's getting good care, And then one day, he said to me, I asked him, how's your mommy doing? He said, I was sitting with my mother on the veranda, and we were having a little discussion, and then my mommy stopped and asked me, how are you, and how is your wife, how is your family, and who are you? So he paused. He said, he began to cry immediately. He said, Mommy, I'm your son. And it was heart-wrenching. I don't know, for those of you who have not had that experience, you need to know that Alzheimer's is not much different from death. That's how bad it is. When a person is suffering from Alzheimer's, it's like you've lost that individual. You do not have a living entity amongst you anymore. What you have is not even a zombie. You have something that's worse than a zombie. And somebody whose consciousness is absent. So, the reason why I'm talking about this, because I want to emphasize to us tonight that as people of African ancestry, as people who have lived through chattel slavery, you need to understand that the oppressor is very, very interested in making sure that our memories are destroyed. It's absolutely important that we are clear about that. You see, we live in a world, and in fact, Sister Maya Angelou, who just passed recently, she's joined the ancestors, and we celebrate her gifts to us. One of her poems, a great poem that she wrote, and which we celebrate in a meeting in the African Village Square, is what she called the Black Family Pledge. You know, when we present it, we call it the African Family Pledge. And what she talks about is the things we have forgotten. We have forgotten our ancestors, we have forgotten our gods, we have forgotten our parents, we have forgotten our children. These are all the things she sets out in that poem, the things that we have forgotten. And how devastated we are for having forgotten those things. And so, I stand before you as a Rastafarian, and as I listen to Brother Michael talking about the fact that we have no need to be revisionists. We have no need to lie about who we are. You know, if you listen to Rastafarians talk about His Imperial Majesty sometimes, is there anybody here who's heard Rastafarians talk about His Imperial Majesty? Yes. And if you listen to them talk about His Imperial Majesty, you're wondering who His Imperial Majesty is. You'll never believe that he was the emperor of, just the emperor of Ethiopia. In fact, most of the Rastafarian community still celebrates His Imperial Majesty as an individual who's still alive somewhere in the world today. You know, they insist that he did not die, that he mysteriously disappeared. You see, because what it is, just like the idea of death, my brothers and sisters, which Rastafarians cannot reconcile with. And in fact, as a Rastafarian, I have to speak to many Rastafarians about death. I remember once this brother, Rastafarian brother, prominent, he's an artist, a prominent artist. His son had died, and he was purchasing the material for the celebration of his son's memorial. But guess what? He was planning not to be present at the funeral. And so he had this conflict in his mind. How am I going to celebrate my son's passing without being present? So he came to me for advice as to exactly what he should do. And, you know, I used the opportunity to explain to him what death is. That indeed, when the Rastafarian says that we cannot die, that it is indeed true. You understand me? And that's something that we need to understand, my brothers and sisters, that we cannot die. None of us here will die. Another thing is, they've told us that salvation is only for a few, and that many of us are destined for hell. I like to reassure my brothers and sisters that every single living human being will have salvation. There's none of us who will be condemned to the depths of hell. We need to know that as well. The difference is, it will take some of us longer to have salvation. And once again, let me make the connection between salvation and consciousness, because that's what salvation is. When we have acquired the consciousness of our Creator, of our Maker, when we know our God, that's when we have salvation. And this is a challenge that people of African ancestry has to deal with today. We need to strive to know our God. And in order to know God, it is a very, very simple process, my brothers and sisters. Does anybody know what we have to do? Know ourselves. That's all we have to do, my brothers. So it's not hard. You know, we have to engage in self-study. And this is why UAM is important. That is why Freedom Retreat is absolutely important. One of the things we need to do with UAM is that we need to figure out how to replicate it, to make sure that every block has a UAM branch. That's what we need to do. When we do that, my brothers and sisters, then we'll be very close to salvation. We will be able to resolve the issue of our oppressors. Because, you know, I might have said it in this forum before, I'll say it again. The great error of African people in the aftermath of the civil rights movement was to turn our children over to our oppressors. That's a great error we made. And we need to correct that error. That's what Freedom Retreat is all about. At least this is a foundation for that. And so, once again, when we talk about health, we say there's nothing in the realm of human experience that escapes our scope. So don't think about health as the simple remedies for common ailments. Don't think about health in terms of just our herbs and our nutrition. Don't think about health in terms of the vitamins and the supplements, my friends. Think about health in terms of us, in terms of how we make ourselves whole. Because as you listen to Brother Michael talk about what our oppressors do, total war concept. The total war concept is about chopping us up in little pieces in all kinds of ways. They do it individually, they do it inside of our families. Father from mother, mother from children, cousin from cousin. That is how it's going. It's a chopping up process. So in order for us to respond to that strategy, we ought to be striving to make ourselves whole. And I suggest that we begin with ourselves. We need to make ourselves whole. So in terms of understanding wholeness of health, we bring mind, body, and spirit into the picture. And we must understand that we're talking about politics. We're talking about health. I come from a country in which we were raised to think that politics was a bad thing. And I'm pretty sure that it's the same thing in this country. That's what the churches are set up to do. The church is an institution of division, whether we know it or not. And if you wonder why the government gives the church so many privileges and why they do not collect taxes from the church, my friends, this is the reason. You know, it's a very, very tolerable institution. It doesn't mean that as an institution we cannot use it for our liberation, but we have to develop a strategy to do it as we organize ourselves, my friends. So, as we get into the specifics, once again, house of consciousness, our intellect, the intellect simply being that instrument that manipulates intelligence. Does everybody understand that? Our intellect is simply the instrument given to us by our divine to manipulate intelligence. And I'll remind you that when I talk about intelligence, a lot of people think that they use intelligence as an alternate word for aptitude. Intelligence is simply data or information. That's what intelligence is. So from time to time I remind our community that the Central Intelligence Agency is not an organization that consists of intelligent people. It's an organization of people who collect information. That's all they do. You don't have to be bright to do that. Anybody can give you a little questionnaire and send you out in the community and say, go get people to fill these out for us. Find out where they live, find out their ages, how many people. About any country in this world, you simply need to access the CIA fact. They'll tell you that. You know, my brothers and sisters, I'm pretty sure you've heard about the Peace Corps, right?
Be careful.
Yeah. Did you know that that was perhaps one of the most important intelligence arm of the United States government? Yes. Yeah, the Peace Corps. Yeah. And I know members of the Peace Corps were thinking to themselves that they're doing a wonderful job. They're out there helping people all over the world. Yes, that's the way they set up the program. But that's one of the most significant pieces of United States intelligence. Now they don't need to do that anymore.
Okay.
They use all kinds of, as Sister Keisha said, that NASA is a very important institution. That's what it does.
Okay.
So, NSA, yes, that's what it is now. But NASA is a part of it. Yes, the satellites. Yes. Don't forget. Yes. satellite and what we call it, GPS, yes, yeah, yeah. My brothers and sisters, we need to understand that the house of intellect is what we need to pay attention to. And so tonight I want to talk to us about protecting our memories. And to protect our memories, we need to understand that we have to protect every cell in our body community. The immune system is something that we hear about all the time, especially with the onset of AIDS. AIDS kind of woke people up to the notion of this immune system that we have. But the concept of the immune system as it's presented by the scientists is something that we need to look at, we need to look at, with a great deal of care. Because very often when they talk about the immune system, they talk about T cells, we talk about phagocytes, all kinds of white blood cells and all kinds of lymphocytes and all the things in the body community that's supposed to capture alien stuff in the body community. But once again, we want you to understand that you have an immune system when your entire human frame is whole. We're going to go back to wholeness again. If you are not whole, my brothers and sisters, your immune system is not working. And so funny that very often when your immune system is at work, the allopaths will shut it down. Yes, that's what they do. So for example, if someone suffers from diarrhea, you go to the doctor, you say, "Doctor, I'm suffering from diarrhea. What can I do?" The doctor will give you a prescription that will prevent your body from eliminating. Do you know that? And does anybody here knows what's inside the the substances, the pesitor, the tablets that they give you, the capsules that they give for diarrhea? Does anybody know? Yeah. They will give you just a little mixture of concrete, cement. Yes, that's what they do. Yeah, I mean, you take some concrete, it hardens your stool, it stops the diarrhea. Yeah. You can't believe that, right? Yeah, but you see, so, you think they're dealing with this condition with high science, Let me tell you how we deal, in the naturopathic world, how we deal with diarrhea. When someone suffers from diarrhea, first thing you recognize that is their immune system at work. In my philosophy of practice, which is microcosmic science, we recognize that we have something in the body community that repels that which is not in harmony with our body community. So when you take a substance into your body community, your spirit energy rejects it right away. And it manifests in various forms. It can be in the form of a fever. So most of us think that a fever is a bad thing, right? When you have a fever, that's your immune system at work. It's using the element of fire to burn off that which is foreign in the body community. When you vomit, that's your immune system at work. When you've ingested something that's not in harmony with your nature, your spirit begins to reject it. It spits it out. So people think that nausea and vomiting is a bad thing. You getting me? What I'm saying, when you start to suffer from certain kinds of ailments, you need to think about it with a different kind of mindset. Do not think that the symptom is the problem. That's not the problem. Because that's your immune system at work. In microcosmic science, this little force that we're talking about, we call the archeos. It's a department of your spirit. Your spirit is what makes you different from a corpse. A corpse is a body without a spirit. A spirit, a body that has a spirit is able to stand up. You hear my voice, my brothers and sisters? That's the echo of my spirit. That's the echo of my soul. Because you do not see it. Can you see my voice? No, you don't see my voice. So that is how the archeos work. In fact, even as I speak to you, that's my archeos at work. Okay? So when you have a diarrhea, what it is, your body is rejecting a foreign element in your body community by spewing it out through the anus. You understand? So in our system, the way we deal with it, whatever the spirit is doing, we encourage it. We do a little more. So if you're having a diarrhea, you need laxative to help your archeos, because whatever it's getting rid of, you need to get rid of all of it. Yeah, if you're vomiting, you need something to make you vomit a little bit more. Get rid of it. You know, if you have a fever, you simply want to make sure that the fever is not at a height that burns up your nervous system. So what you do, you help the body to flush out what's going on in the body community without overheating. So that's the only reason why you're cooling down your body. And I don't know, does anybody here knows when a fever is over? Does anybody know? Listen, let me tell you, because since I don't hear the answers, let me tell you. Whenever you have a fever, you'll notice that sweating will cease. Okay? So, whatever you use to counteract that fever, whenever you start to sweat, you know that the fever is broken. Okay? That's where you break it. When you begin to perspire. Okay? So, you have certain kinds of substances, foods, nutrients that are known as febrifuges that bring about that kind of effect. In Jamaica, perhaps the most outstanding one that we know is what we call the fever grass. Here in the United States of America, you call it lemongrass. So if you have a fever, you use an herb like that, you consume it, and it will make you sweat, you know. That's how you deal with it. Later on, I can tell you some other ways to deal with fever. In fact, let me just tell you one of the very, very important one, because everybody here should have Epsom salt in your homes. Everybody here has Epsom salt in your home? Yeah. If you suffer from a fever, then one of the great things to do is to take a bath as hot as you can bear in Epsom salt. Yeah, because what it does, it will open up the pores and help to pull out whatever poisons is inside your body community. It will also encourage sweating. But it's absolutely important that when you are complete, when you've completed the bath, that you close the pores. You must close the pores. You use ice cold water to do it. A lot of you are frightened when you hear about ice cold water, but I would like every African person to begin to shower after you've completed your shower, to wash yourself off with ice cold water. That's one of the greatest immune system treatment that you can ever have, especially in the winter time. Yes, yes, yes. Let me tell you this, if you do that practice, you'll never get sick in the winter. I will assure you that. You see, a lot of people are getting sick in the winter time. I'm sure many of you have heard about people taking up drafts and stuff like that in the winter time. They'll tell you if you take a shower, stay inside, don't go outside for an hour or so. Yes, yeah. But you see, even inside of your house, you're in danger. Because most of us don't understand that there's a little thing. Have you ever heard about miasms or miasmas? Anybody here ever heard about miasmas? Yeah, I need to share this information with you. You see, there is a substance in the atmosphere that gets to the atmosphere in a similar way that everybody here familiar with the water cycle, the rain cycle? Does everybody here know how rain falls? Yeah. As the water evaporates from the ground, it goes up into the atmosphere, it forms clouds. When the clouds have built up to a certain level, when they're overladen, they now come back to the earth as rain. Well, miasmas operate in the same way. So you see, in an environment on the ground, there is a certain amount of waste that people deposit on the land surface on a daily basis. There are people who spit on the ground. You have dog poo on the ground, cat poo, all kinds of animal dung, any kind of excrements, and sometimes dead animals that rot, dead people that rot, whatever it is on the surface. When this waste matter sitting there on the ground, it gets evaporated up into the atmosphere. Usually in it's like a bacterial cloud that's up in the atmosphere. When it reaches a certain critical point, then they fall back on the earth like rain. So if you're exposed to that when your pores are open, they enter your body, and then you suffer from all those symptoms, fevers, allergies, all kinds of conditions that are associated. Some people will even get diseases that are deadly. Some people will even pick up diseases that are described as autoimmune diseases, diseases that are lingering in your body for many years, can't cure. Yeah, that's what miasmas are. So we have to protect ourselves against miasmas all the time. And to protect yourself from miasmas, you make sure that your pores are sealed. So people are thinking that inside their household they might be safe. After you've come out of that bath, you're thinking that the environment in your household is safe. No. For many of us, our environmental households are not safe because of the kinds of substances that we're using in our households. A lot of us use some of those cleansers you get from the stores, the chemicals and all that kind of stuff to clean your furniture, to clean your floor, to wash your laundry, to do your dishes. Yes, the residue from these chemicals are also piled up in your household. So you come out of your bath, out of your shower, and you absorb this stuff. And so this is why it's recommended that after you've taken your shower, your bath, especially a warm bath, you wash your body off with ice cold water. Seal your pores and protect yourself from those kinds of ailments. Let me explain to you, I come to you, my brother. Let me explain this to you, my brothers and sisters. We need to understand, and this is why I'm saying, envy not the oppressors, and choose none of their ways. We need to understand that as a people who are moving in the dimension and direction of independence, we must develop and engage in practices that isolate us from the establishment. I don't need to tell Brother Michael Grace this, but some of you might not know, the establishment does not like black people. There are a lot of people who think that the establishment likes us. You have to understand this every day. And I listen to black people telling me all the time that if a cop stops you, if you talk to them intelligently, the cop will let you go and that kind of stuff. And there are people who are talking like that all the time. And I have a young man who I talk to all the time. I said, listen, in the first place, the cop was not supposed to stop you. That was the first thing. So, how you tell me that a cop is coming over to you, telling you some kind of falsehood about something that you never did, and that kind of stuff, and and you have to wise talk him to get him off your back, and then tell me, you see, he left me alone because I gave him, he recognized that I'm not an idiot. I don't care if you're black and you're an idiot, the cop is not supposed to bother us. But once again, I'm pretty sure that everyone here knows that we live under occupation. We're not living much differently from the people in the Gaza are living in relationship to the Israeli. I mean, you heard the story. 3 Israeli kids died. So they bombed the people and then killed 3 of their kids. Tell me if that's an irresponsible government. And the entire world condones that kind of behavior every time, my brothers and sisters. Well, there are a lot of things happening in our community every day because one thing that I'm very much aware of is the fact that we don't hear about all the shootings that takes place in our community. I know of cases of shootings where, in fact, I know a kid who was shot in the back riding his bike away from the police. I've never heard it on the news. I've never heard a word said about it. It happened just about a block down the road from where we do business in the Bronx. You see? So these are the kinds of things that are happening to us every day. So we need to understand that our intellect should tell us that we need to isolate ourselves from this establishment, my friends. And that's why when we talk about focus on survival, that's the importance of this. So when we talk about preserving ourselves individually, these are the things that I'm talking to you about, because there are a lot of people who celebrate the idea of getting a prescription, of getting one and filling one. My brothers and sisters, we do not need prescriptions. Yes, we don't need vaccinations either. You see the amount of children who are suffering from autism today, my brothers and sisters? Yeah, we need to, we can't watch this stuff happening, my brothers and sisters, and think it's okay. We gotta know that something's wrong. And if there's something wrong, we need to do something about it. So we need to find an alternative. And this is why I share these kinds of information with you. They sound so simple. Yeah, sounds too simple. Yeah, but that's what it is, my brothers and sisters. Prevention. They say an ounce of prevention. I simply say prevention. Better than any kind of cure. African people need to move in a prevention direction. That's preservation, my brothers and sisters. All right? So, there are many of the ailments that our brothers and sisters are suffering from every day that are highly unnecessary. Okay? Cleansing. I'm pretty sure that I've spoken to you about internal hygiene. And I'm a very, very strong proponent of daily internal hygiene. Daily internal hygiene is going to prevent us from aging. It's going to prevent many of the inflammatory processes that are taking place in our body community. Because we need to know that what is bothering most of us is an accumulation of chronic inflammation tendencies in our body community. Some people experience this inflammation as like diabetes, arthritis, various kinds of bodily aches and pains. We need to understand that these are preventable conditions, my brothers and sisters. Of course, fundamental to everything I'm talking about is also the way we eat. We can't cover everything tonight, but, we have to focus on what we eat, how we eat. This fast food concept that's going on here is something that black people need to reject. It's not a part of our culture. It's not a part of our heritage. It's not a part of our tradition. It's only out of ignorance why people would eat fast food and think they're eating food for that matter. It's not even, you can't even call it food. Those items that are sold in these stores that they call fast food are mostly synthetic stuff. Has anybody here ever wondered how is it? Let me ask you this, my brothers and sisters. Anybody here ever peeled a potato? An Idaho potato? Yeah, when you peel your potato, what happens to it? It turns brown, right? So tell me, have you ever wondered how is it that you go to McDonald's or to Burger King and they have these nice white fries? Have you ever asked yourself that question yet? How come they keep it so long and it doesn't turn brown? Yeah? Does anybody know how they keep it white? Yeah? Yeah. That's the answer. Formaldehyde. Do you know what they use formaldehyde to do, my brothers and sisters? Embalming, yes. Yeah. Yeah, so, we need to think about these things. When we step into these places, we spend our hard-earned dollars and we buy disease. That's what we're doing. And then we're wondering why we're sick. Then we're wondering about Medicaid and all that kind of stuff. My brothers and sisters, I'm not ashamed to tell you. I'm not even interested in having health insurance. What they call health insurance, because that is really disease insurance. Yeah. And I'm not even interested in it. Not even interested in it. Your health insurance is the plate of food you consume every day. Your meals. That's your health insurance. And it's so funny when I suggest to people from time to time, listen, just invest in a little bit of cleansing for your body on a daily basis. My brothers and sisters, you know, check our elders back in the South, check your elders in the Caribbean, check your elders in Africa. Anybody here who grew up in the Caribbean knew what happened in the summertime? Yeah, you're gonna get washed out, of course. Yeah, that was a regular part of our lives. Yeah, down south, I'm sure that that's the way the thing worked. Yeah, so why is it that we're not continuing these practices? You know why, my brothers and sisters? Because I mentioned earlier about the division of our families, how our families are divided. You know the greatest division in our family today? The generational division. Yes. We are so divided, mother from children, parents from children. You know, very few parents in the African community can say anything to their children and have influence. Now, it's a very serious thing. We need to understand that. Remember what I said earlier? I said one of the greatest errors we made in the aftermath of civil rights was to hand our children over to our oppressors for training. That was one of the greatest errors we made, my brothers and sisters. So we're going to have to find a way to bridge the generation gap. And I'm going to suggest to you that one of the ways to do it is to make sure that you feed your children. And when I say feed your children, I want to take it one step further. Not just feeding your children, you nurture your children. You see? So it's absolutely important that we cook in our households. It's very important that we do that and that we feed our children. You know, I like to tell people when people talk about who can cook and who cannot cook and all that kind of stuff. I like to tell you know, there's something that I say all the time. Everybody's mother is the best cook. Yeah. You know, whatever you grew up eating, that's going to be the standard for good food for you. I don't care how terrible a cook your mother is. The world might think your mother is a bad cook. The children love their mother cooking. That's nurturing, my brothers and sisters. And it's important that we understand that that is how we're going to build the generation gap. Because that little pot on that stove, that's the bond. That's the glue that keeps the family together. When we grew up, our parents didn't allow us to eat from other people. Yeah, they'll tell you, if you're visiting the neighbors and you see them getting ready to have dinner, come on home. You know, it's just a thing that people did. You know, we grew up learning to do that. And children who are raised like that will have trust in their elders. We need to understand. It sounds very simple, but it is a very, very deep concept, my brothers and sisters. Those are the things that we need to be focusing on. Because, once again, I'm saying we need to be independent of the establishment. And guess what? A lot of people feel that to be independent, we need money. And I keep on telling people that money, in fact, that is why I subscribe to Dr. Amos Wilson's definition of economics. He says economics has nothing to do with money. It has to do with relationships. And anybody who destroys our relationships will destroy us as a race. Yes. So we need to build that relationship. We need to organize our families in such a way that we find the time to prepare the meals in our households and begin to get back into the practice of having children come home from meals. You know, when I grew up, I never even ate lunch at school when it was free. I would go without food rather than have a free lunch. Nowadays, children are leaving their parents' food because they want to eat lunch at school. Yes. Yes, my brothers and sisters, because you see what it is. It has to do with taste. That's another lecture. If you understand what taste is, Remember, taste is not in the substances outside of us. Taste is only in one place, inside of us. Okay? So, once a child is cultivated, in fact, a child comes to the earth with a blank palate. The palate is blank. A lot of people will say, become very subjective about what their children eat. They're saying, oh, he's not going to like this, she's not going to like this. No, my brothers and sisters, a child does not know what anything tastes like. They don't know what tastes good or what tastes bad. If you feed a child bitters all the life, that is the taste they're going to love all the days. You see, but we live in a culture, a sweet culture. Yeah, and so what we do in order to get our children to consume certain things, we give them sweet, 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 sweet. So they now learn, they're engrammed to love that kind of stuff. You see, we need to understand what when your children are born, do not impose your taste on them. And if you're suffering from diseases that are associated with what you're like, yes, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. When you go into the supermarket, if you want to diagnose people's ailments, just go to the checkout counter and look in people's market basket. And you can tell what people are suffering from. You can tell the diabetics, you can tell the cancer people, you can tell the prostate people. Yeah, you can just look in their market basket. People eat the stuff that make them sick, and the more sick they are, the more they love the stuff that make them sick. You see? So that is why it's so difficult to get people to change. You see, because when you're suffering from an ailment, it means that you need to change something about what you're doing. Because the principle, the hermetic principle of cause and effect is at work. Every consequence has a cause, and every cause will result in a particular consequence. If you're suffering from an ailment, it means that you're doing something wrong in your life. As a food therapeutic counselor, my brothers and sisters, I very often say to my client, how is your diet? My diet is wonderful. So what are you doing here? You know, if your diet is good, then guess what? You're going to be in perfect health. So the moment you find yourself with an ailment, you recognize immediately that you're doing something wrong. There's something that needs to be changed, my brothers and sisters. Self-transformation, a very, very powerful idea. In fact, I talk about self-transformation through transitional diet all the time. You see, so what we need to do, let me say about transitional diet, because I know a lot of people grapple with that idea. Very often speakers will come to you and they say, you need to eat this, you need to eat that, you need to eat this, you need to change this, you need to become a vegetarian, you need to stop eating the animals, you need to stop doing this, that, all that kind of stuff. You know, there's a time in my life when I do that. Nowadays, I don't do that. You know, I tell people to eat what you want. Eat whatever you want. Because you see, my brothers and sisters, you see the thing called what you eat is a function of your consciousness. Takes us right back to the house of consciousness, the idea of intellect. You see? So, as human beings, we're supposed to be growing, we're supposed to be evolving. But unfortunately, in the aftermath of chattel slavery, colonialism, and all that kind of stuff, we are suffering from a situation, we call it arrested development. A lot of people might not want to accept it, but trust me, my brothers and sisters, that's what black people are suffering from. If we weren't suffering from that, I tell you, we wouldn't be living in the condition that we're living in today. Okay? And I'm talking about from a global perspective, not just here in North America. All right? We are in a state of arrested development. In fact, I will even go further. We are in a retrogressive state of development. That's basically the kind of war that's been waged against us today. I mean, I'm sitting here today and I'm watching what people call the recolonization of Africa. I call it the reoccupation of Africa. Okay? I'm watching it and I'm saying, can you believe, and people say, in the year 2014, we are witnessing this, and black people cannot even recognize what's going on. You know, and there are people who say, you know, we'll never be slaves again. You know, I mean, that's what the British say. They say Britons will never be slave again. They said nobody will ever enslave them. The thing with us is that they're enslaving us and we don't even know. You see, I call it the boiling frog syndrome. Yes, the boiling frog syndrome. People know that frogs, just like all reptiles and frogs, basically their temperature, their body temperature changes with the environment that they're in. That's why they hibernate in winter. As the temperature goes down, their body temperature goes down. When it gets to a level where they're not active anymore, they just go to sleep. Temperature rises again. Well, if you put them in a pot of water, the water is boiling, getting hotter, hotter, hotter. They don't know that it's getting hotter because their body temperature is changing with it until it gets to a point where they're cooked. You see? That's what we call the boiling frog syndrome. That's how black people are living today. You know, we have no idea about what's going on with us. A few of us are aware. And just today I had a discussion with a gentleman. He was angry. He was angry about Obama. You understand me? And I understand his emotions, you know. But he only saw what's happening in the aftermath. After everything has happened. Now he's saying, wow, you know, I thought this man was going to be good for black people. I thought he was going to do stuff for us. I thought it was an opportunity for us. Black people are celebrating the fact that that a black man was going to be president and they were going to live to see a black president in the White House. You know, once again, my brothers and sisters, remember, our intellect is that element inside of our house of consciousness that manipulates intelligence. I'm saying that our intellect is that element inside of our consciousness that manipulates intelligence. That will determine how we make our choices. You see? So that, for example, you know, I've made a lot of enemies talking about Obama, you know, because I was one of those persons on the air telling the community not to vote for Obama. I said, you know, in fact, I refused to vote in both of those elections. And the reason why I made this simple argument, once again, Brother Alton were here to emphasize the idea of logic, because that's what logic is all about. The definition I gave you for intellect, manipulating intelligence, that's logic. Yes, that's the one word for that definition, logic. Okay? Because the logical thing is this. I'm making the argument. My observation is simply this. There are over 300 million racist white people in this country, or nearly 300 million racist white folk. They don't like black folk. They have us living under occupation. Everything we try to do to better our lives, they oppose. When we are successful, they destroy our success. That's what Tulsa, Oklahoma is all about, and Rosewood and all that kind of stuff. Then tell me that these people are looking out for our best interests. So therefore, I made a discussion. I made this. You know, they're saying that 13% of the American population is black. You know, now, why is it that racist white folk would come to that 13% and say, you know, we are in dire straits and we need somebody to solve our problem? The solution can only come from your group. No, you tell me which white man is going to say, we need a black man to solve our problem. Tell me, my brothers and sisters, which racist white man would say that?
None.
So, the moment they drew for Obama, because you need to understand that presidents are not elected, they're selected. You know, for Obama to win an election, it means the establishment has to stand behind him and put out the information that's going to have people look at him positively, especially white folk. True or false?
True.
Yes. So, if the system is doing something like that, then right away, it raises a red flag. You're saying, no, there's something up here, And the point I made to our community, I said, there's nothing wrong with a black man getting the job. I have no problem with that. But when they're going to put a black man there to do oppressive things against us, I have a problem with that. I'm not going to embrace that. I'm not going to join that. Made a lot of black people mad. They said, I hate black people. I don't want to see black people progress. I said, well, listen, when they put Obama in office, you're going to see the suppression of black people. Notice, in the aftermath of his election, white folk swore that he'll make sure that all his domestic policies fail. Where is his success? In international affairs, especially when it comes to Africa. Obama has firmly established AFRICOM in the continent of Africa today. Firmly. You never hear anybody complain that he did a bad job in Africa. You'll never hear that. He's the one who killed Gaddafi. You understand me? You'll never hear anybody complain that he did a bad job. But everything that he tries to do here in this country, shut down. You see, my brothers and sisters? So once again, that's what I'm saying. I was at a point where I'm saying to community, pay attention to this. Logically, the logic doesn't pan out. It doesn't make sense. Why would white folks select a black? Because 13% of the population can't elect a president, and black folk are saying, yeah, we elected Obama. No, we didn't. White folk put Obama there. We need to know. And remember that the president, people call the president the leader of the country. He's not the leader. He is equivalent of what you call in a corporation the chief executive officer. That's what he is. He simply carries out the wishes and the objectives of the board of directors. You've heard about the board of directors in all kinds of ways. They call them Illuminati and all kinds of other names. You see, the silent, the hidden faces that you and I don't see, those are the people who run this country. He is simply the executive in charge of carrying out whatever it is they say that he should do. You see, my brothers and sisters? So this is why we keep on going back to the house of consciousness. We're going back to how we manipulate information. Because that's how we make decisions, my brothers and sisters. Because these are the two gifts that human beings have that makes us different from the lower animals. And yet, my brothers and sisters, when we look at the lower animals, just watch nature. And watch how they describe how these lower animals operate. With great intelligence. They're smart. They know how to protect their community. They know how to look out for their young ones. They know how to maintain themselves. They know how to survive. Black people do not know how to survive. Why? Because we have lost the memory. It has been taken away from us, my brothers and sisters. We need to regain it. There are a lot of stuff we need to regain. And this is the reason why what we eat is so important. We need to turn in. We need a kind of involuted kind of operation amongst ourselves in order to re-establish our independence. You see, just look at our history in terms of our arrival here in this country on these so-called slavers. Okay, and then look at the auction, our sale, our distribution to the various plantations here in the Western Hemisphere, from the Caribbean to North America. That was the first splitting up because, whether you're brothers or sisters, husbands or wife, whatever you were, everybody was split up all over the place. It's a funny thing that we live in a world today where there's such a difficulty in getting people from Africa, people from the Caribbean, people here in North America to get together. Because that's another thing we need to overcome. The kind of